Persona!
You never see it coming.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 20 of Dash and Holmesy Take Your Hearts, powered by Audio Technica. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with my co-host, Holmesy. Hello.
What's going on, mate? How are you?
Hey, can you believe it? Another season. It's going to be fun.
It feels like it's been a long time. It has been a long time, actually. I'm saying it feels like it. It has. How long has it been since we did our last
It was January? No. Was it?
What?
Yeah.
No. Wait, what did we...
Yeah. No, well,
What did we do in January?
It was a pre-show for Scramble, I think. And
True. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so it hasn't been ages, but it feels like it has. Okay.
Or Strikers, yeah, I should say.
Well, goddamn.
Strikers.
Yeah, Strikers. Yeah.
I've been trying I've been trying to still kind of get that into the vocabulary instead of Scramble, but it's the same game anyway. But guys, if you didn't know, this is Dash and Holmesy Take Your Hearts. It's our tri-monthly book club inspired gaming podcast where Holmesy and I get together and talk about the latest and greatest in Persona 5 and the whole Persona 5 franchise. Obviously, this season we're going to be talking about Persona 5 Strikers, now available on PC, unbelievable, Nintendo Switch and PS4, also compatible with your PlayStation 5. Thanks to the kind folk over at 5 Star Games who provided this review copy for myself and Holmesy to do our season on. If you like what you hear today, make sure that you follow us over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also catch the VAD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, give us a like, leave us a comment. It surely helps us out. Chris, I've been doing something on the other shows that I noticed that I wasn't doing here on Dash and Holmesy, and it's called housekeeping. What I do is I ask my co-hosts if they have any housekeeping, if they have any content that they want to pimp out on the show prior to getting into the meat and bones, the nitty gritty of everything. Is there anything in housekeeping for you today?
Well, for my content?
Yeah, is there anything in the latest that you got going at the moment?
Nothing specific, I guess, but since the last pod, I guess... Oh, no, I had moved to YouTube then. Yeah, I'm on YouTube exclusively now, so I stream and upload up all on there, so if you want to catch any of that, doing a bit of variety games, so if you, check out youtube.com/Holmes, got that URL. Thanks so much, YouTube support.
Nice.
That is where I live and breathe now for all my content.
Fantastic. I need to get the Dash Game one, because... Well, now that I own the name and everything, why not?
Get it done, dude.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Holmesy, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. If there's any other analogies that I can, spin on this thing.
Yeah.
Persona 5 Strikers. Okay, so there's a difference here. Immediately. From Persona 5 to Persona 5 Strikers, we're already looking at a continuation in story, which is fantastic because it's one of those things where I never expected to have a full-fledged sequel to Persona 5 ever. Narrative-wise, canonically, however you want to put it. But here we are. We have a canonical sequel to Persona 5. How did you feel about jumping back into its narrative 6 months after the events of Persona 5, and it's been a while since you played Persona 5 from start to finish. Obviously, it'd be about 2 years, wouldn't it now? Yeah,
give or take, somewhere in there. Yeah, between 1.5 2 years. Yeah.
It's
good. Yeah, look, I actually this whole wave of nostalgia flowed over me the first time, like when you go back to LeBlanc Coffee and you see Sojiro and all your friends and you get the big old surprise, like welcome back kind of thing. So yeah, it was it's very very familiar to go back to the same place, and Sojiro is obviously still he's just video game dad, still being his usual self.
Coffee
and all that.
dad.
He's happy to coffee dad, seeing you come back and all that, and your room still set up the way it was before and stuff. So
yeah,
look, it's It's been a long time since I played P5, so the story from that isn't super fresh in my head in terms of like, obviously I know where it left off, like the whole thing ends with like we're doing our little road trip at the end of the whole thing, but yeah, 6 months later, everyone in the game is talking about how long it's been since they've all seen each other, and feels like it's been longer, but 6 months is kind of just flown by, and yeah, it's nice to be back in the same world again, and obviously nothing has changed, so it's nice to be running around the streets around LeBlanc and all that again, yeah.
Yeah. In terms of like actually playing and exploring LeBlanc and everything else, I was going to ask you those opening moments of actually getting to Yongin in the back streets there and kind of soaking in, the back streets again and trying to take it all in. That nostalgia flow and all that kind of stuff, it would have been there as soon as you saw it, and as soon as the Beneath the Mask music hit and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, there's a familiarity there. However, did you immediately spot any differences between Persona 5 to Persona 5 Strikers?
You talk about music, which I'm really quickly going to say the new music in this is dope.
Yeah.
Like the updated soundtrack it matches the type of game that this is now, definitely.
Yeah.
The new music is really, 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 really good.
Yeah.
I feel like though the question you're asking and I feel there's something specific that I should have noticed, and I can't think of anything there's nothing that I specifically saw when I got back to, I guess, Persona 5 Home.
Yeah.
That was different from last time. So what have I missed? There's probably something I've overlooked that you're about to tell me, and I'm going to be like, oh my god. But what? No. Aside from the obvious stuff, like we don't get to, I've forgotten her name now. We don't get to speak to like our doctor friend. I can't remember the lady that gives us like the meds and all that. What's her name again? Tai Takemi. That's right. Gosh, I forgot it. Yeah, I forgot her name. Yeah, we don't get to speak to her anymore. Same with the guy in the gun shop. Yeah. There's a few people that are missing in terms of like our regulars, but
can't play
that's
baseball.
The biggest thing, I guess. Can't play baseball. Yeah, can't do can't clean up our clothes and get like I guess metaverse gear cleaned up to be like armor and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, the one thing that I was probably going to highlight mainly in like the opening moments of actually taking control of our protagonist again is kind of the more feel of the game, that it's changed mechanically. The way it kind of plays, and you mentioned this as well, like, man, it was great to play Persona 5 in 60 frames per second, and I was like, yeah, how good is that?
Yes. Oh my lord, yeah, having 60 frames was, it feels like if they ever make Persona 5 play 60 FPS as well, like I would gladly go back just to have like a run and to see what it's like, because it feels so much nicer.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, obviously, PlayStation 3 emulation. The game is out on PS3. I have tested our emulation on PC with the game. There is a 60 frames per second mod, and you're right, it is clean. And,
oh yeah?
Oh yeah, smooth.
That's pretty
as
cool.
Butter. But the thing is, obviously, playing it on your PS4 Pro at the moment. I played it on PS5, and just like seeing it visually, how it performs is fantastic. It performs well on PlayStation. So
there's also one thing I like that I changed and didn't even notice, like a sacrifice in frames, is the difference between quality versus performance.
Yeah.
And by default, I think it's on performance for the 60 FPS, but I put it on quality, and the game looks a bit clean around the edges. Yeah. Not like leaps and bounds different, but the game looks a bit smooth around the edges and stuff. But I don't really see it doesn't feel like the game is dropping below 60 FPS for the most part too. So if you haven't, chuck it on quality, because it still stays
great.
Smooth and looks a little better too. So
yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Like there is an aesthetic downgrade to the game in terms of Strikers compared to Persona 5, especially for those who have played Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal kind of polished a lot of what Persona 5's misgivings were presented in terms of graphical quality and fidelity. There was a lot more polish to Royal than what there was in vanilla Persona 5. Jumping from Persona 5 Royal directly to Persona 5 Strikers will be an exponential downgrade in graphical fidelity. You'll definitely notice it almost immediately. There is like jaggy edges, and I spoke to you about this because I also got my hands on the PC copy, and I sent a couple of photos your way, and I said, hey, check this out. Look at the jaggy lines here, and look at the smooth lines on this. And guess which one's PC? And the smoother one was on PC, and I was kind of taken back a little bit by that because I was like, okay, that's a bit weird that the PC version of the game is actually smoother than what it was on PlayStation. Then I found out that the PC version doesn't actually perform as well as the PlayStation version. So I don't know what the differences are. Essentially, I know that the frame rate, there are some dips on PC, which is a bit concerning. Considering
is it capped at 60 FPS, or can you level it? Can you raise it up? Is it like unlimited?
It's unlimited. But the thing is, even then, capping it, still there's dips to like 30 frames, and I'm like, okay, that's weird because I wouldn't have expected that from PC. But then again, these ports that make it to PC aren't. I don't know if they're directly handled by Atlus, so who knows? It could be a third-party publisher that could be handling that to port it over, but. Anyway, the point is that it's on PC, and for people who want to experience it, you can through Steam, so that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking of which, Holmesy, so playing it now, like, how far in are you?
So I've just finished the, I guess the abandoned jail, so the Shuzo Ubukata jail.
Okay.
So we're just at the end of that. I haven't actually moved on from that area, but I completed the jail. I'm at the point where I'm literally going to get into the van, or like the camper van thing, and peace out to the next area, which I think we're going to Kyoto next.
Oh, okay, yep.
I think that was the next area we're going to. I know,
you are correct.
Zenkichi was talking about that. Yeah, I think he's going somewhere else too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. So let's talk about the opening moments of the game, in terms of cinematics and stuff. So we open up, and you're basically put into a boardroom. This is after the time leap, essentially, that you're open to, is to kind of familiarize yourself with the controls of the game. But before we get into that, let's head into the boardroom. So, if you recall, the end of Persona 5. This is weird as well, because they don't really explain this They don't really explain this post Persona 5, because I would have thought that after Persona 5 happened, people had forgotten about the Phantom Thieves altogether. If you recall the events of defeating the False God, once you defeat the False God, everybody kind of got on with their lives like nothing had happened, and they had forgotten.
Yeah. It's kind of strange.
And I'm not sure if part of that was actually forgetting about the existence of the Phantom Thieves. It was never made clear. So what happens is we're in the boardroom, and then all of a sudden they're talking about a new wave of cognitive misdirection in humanity, and all of a sudden they say, well, like Zenkichi we're introduced to, all of a sudden turns around and says, well, sounds like the work of the Phantom Thieves. And I kind of sat there like, oh, they are recognizing Phantom Thieves as they still exist? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that when they started saying stuff like that?
It was actually, look, I gotta be honest, like, the end of because you're right, I guess, like, it seemed a little strange after such a enormous event. Like, people literally witnessed a cognitive world merge into our own, and then nobody really seemed to, like, there's nothing in this game, no one really has any comments about it. Like, it's just almost as if, like, it never happened. But that's a pretty massive thing for anybody to witness.
Yeah.
And like, having that happen, and then for like only one person brings up Phantom Thieves and nobody else kind of does in the start of the game is kind of, would have thought that they would be like the first people that they would have thought of being like cognitive world things going on, like mental takeover things, like people having like their hearts change and like their personalities change, like seems like Phantom Thieves.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I really was confounded by the situation there, but at least it made there was some clarity in that humanity hadn't forgotten about the Phantom Thieves, but they did forget about the events that, the whole cognitive world merging with reality. That's something that's been washed over, but the Phantom Thieves do exist in this world, and obviously it's something though that, like, if things like this are happening, it's almost too, I don't know, there's something that's kind of convoluted in that narrative that you can all of a sudden just point fingers at Phantom Thieves. They're the issue as to why some of these happenings, these circumstances are actually happening now. Like, they talk about the director of the chief director of something stripping his clothes down and confessing his love.
Oh, confessing his love while he was naked. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, those kind of things there, if they would just happen one day, do you really just go, oh, well, it's the Phantom Thieves?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that just was a little confounding.
I'm wondering, like, because obviously, like, when the metaverse merged into the real world and we saw, like, everybody saw the Phantom Thieves, defeat the false god and all that kind of stuff, like, there's also nobody left that would, if anything, like, tamper with the metaverse, and, like, it's everybody, I mean, nobody else really knew what it was anyway, but I guess the only logical explanation now, at least, would be that, it would be the Phantom Thieves, because they're the ones that were in it and doing stuff in it for that whole time.
Yeah.
Makes sense to point the finger to them, because as far as everybody else knows, the culprit from the Persona 5 events is gone, and the metaverse is safe. So I guess it makes sense for them to point the finger
the Holy Grail,
at the Phantom Thieves,
bird,
and because that's all gone and, like, sorted out. So
I was going to say, so now that you're kind of back in the metaverse, how do you explain its reemergence, basically? Like, what has happened? How is this happenstance all of a sudden occurred once again?
Yeah, so I'm at the point now in the game where that's kind of like they're starting to reveal more of not like specific details, but there's more discussion around, like, why there are, I mean, we haven't gotten into it just yet, but, like, why there are jails going on and all that, and, like, how this part of the metaverse exists, and, like, what makes it become what it is, and I guess, like, who is the main person, like, overlooking all of it. There's so many more questions that have been brought up halfway through the game, which is pretty much, like, bang on where I am now. So it's really, really cool the way they've done it differently though as well. I'm a pretty big fan of the mechanical, like, the system that they have to go through this so far.
We're definitely going to touch on that in a second. How do you feel about the whole jail thing instead of a palace?
I like it a lot, and my god, there are so many mechanics in this game that I prefer over Persona 5 that I just wish they had in Persona 5. Like, going back to jails you've already done. They're able to go backwards in the game, not necessarily where you physically are. Like, if you're in I'm currently on the island for Shuzo Ubukata, but I can't go back to, like, the first palace, which was back in, or I guess, like, back at home, essentially. Like, we can't travel in the real world back to somewhere else, but we can go back to a different place in the metaverse, and that mechanic is sick. And it lets you keep all your requests, so you can go and finish those up at different times whenever you want to get them done. Big fan so far.
So let's talk about some of the mechanics that you're a fan of that you would have preferred in the original. So what would you have preferred rather than the turn-based combat that was in Persona 5?
See, I mean, I love the live, I guess, like, the hack and slash style that it is now. It definitely feels like just Kingdom Hearts reskin though. It's very much Kingdom Hearts reskin, but I like they're different games, I guess, as well. I wouldn't say like Persona 5 was good and unique in its own way for the turn-based combat that it had, and I really, really like that game as it is. But there are so many things in this game that make it more time efficient to play. Auto dialogue is a blessing. Oh my lord. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate auto dialogue. Now, instead of having to hit pause and write notes down, I literally click L3 when at the start of my playthrough, and I'll let auto dialogue play. People keep talking, so I don't have to press X. I can write down notes and listen at the same time. That's fantastic. I love that so much. The mechanic for swapping persona is really cool. I like that it stops time when you want to choose your persona and type of attack that you're going to use as well. I like the frozen time kind of vibe. That's good. So, or it's still not turn based, but you get time to pick, I guess, what you're going to cast, which I really, really like that. Good. That's really good. Man, what else is there? I did like this is more the Kingdom Hearts kind of thing though as well. Like the the way you swap persona very much feels like the way you swap keyblades in Kingdom Hearts 3, like where you can play live and then swap to a different keyblade for a different form and then do different, like, attacks and forms and damage, whereas, like, in this one you pause time and swap the persona and the type of magic damage you do instead. So, like, that felt very much the same as well. It's good though. Like, I like the new mechanics. I like the way it plays. This is definitely more my kind of game compared to I still like Persona 5, still a good game, but I really like this.
You just like the gameplay loop in this. It's a little more casual than anything, and it's a lot more expeditious in pacing. So you're kind of getting through it a little faster, obviously. You're technically halfway through as we're recording this, And only a few days ago, you messaged me, like about a week ago, you messaged me saying, "Oh, hey, I've gotten through almost the first palace. If we want to do our first step," and I was like, "No, get through more. I guarantee you'll probably be halfway through the game by next week." And I don't know whether that would have been a surprise for you, for me saying that, considering the fact that you played Persona 5 for a year, and it took that long, but here you are, you're already halfway through the game. Obviously, Persona 5 Strikers was aimed to be a shorter game, but it's also for the fact that you can get through the game faster than Persona 5 because of the way it's designed. It's a Muso title. That's what they call it. It's a warriors game. Okay. That's what it is. But the structure behind it is fascinating because it really does kind of deliver that Persona 5 vibe. It's Persona 5. It really is at heart. Yeah. And it doesn't like necessarily it doesn't necessarily deliver 100% Persona 5 or Persona in its sake. It does have facets such as the ability to utilize your respective personas through Joker, through Ryuji, and that's the other thing too. Portraying other characters in the game, not just Joker, being able to control them. I do like that. Yeah, being able to control them, their skill set, their move sets, their personas, and even commanding other people within the game still keeps that RPG, that JRPG element within the spectrum of the whole hack and slash genre within Muso, but you're still playing Persona. You literally summon your personas in the game, which is something that I would never have thought that they could basically meld or amalgamate in a way. Like they could actually bring that together. That's something that's fascinating, unique. I really, really love that. Let's talk a little bit about the first jail, because obviously that's what we do. We talk about the palaces, but let's talk about the jail. So the first jail in the game, we are confronted by Alice, who is in the real world a pop culture icon, a fashion icon, and basically is fronting people with more of an innocent look to her, but in fact she's actually controlling the populace through the metaverse again. Yeah. So I want to get your thoughts on Alice. I want to get your thoughts on actually getting into the metaverse for the first time again, because that would have been a surprise considering the fact that basically it was gone. Yeah. But now it is. Now it's here again. So tell me your thoughts on Alice, the jail, and everything else surrounding the narrative thus far within that jail.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Alice's character design was nuts in a good way. That was one thing I immediately saw. It was very standout character. Obviously an antagonist in the game. Yeah. Very unique design, but I like the the way that they kind of introduce you to this. I feel like they haven't thrown you in the deep end in terms of starting off with a really heavy story and a really heavy reason for why we're trying to, I guess, interrupt or interfere with a character's wrongdoings as well. Obviously, we start with things the first two palaces in Persona 5, for example, were physical abuse of students in a high school and talking or almost making one commit suicide, and then the second one stealing younger kids' work to pose as their own and basically build an empire off of other people's success. There's really heavy shit that happens in the start of Persona 5, whereas this one is, while it's still bad, it starts you off with something a bit lighter with this person is brainwashing people or stealing their desires, that we find out, and making them loyal to her so she has a greater success and she can grow to be I guess what she wanted to be, but not through the means that obviously you should as well. So I like that they started off with something a little less, still has an impact, but it's not quite as heavy as what Persona 5 started us out with. One thing I noticed as I went through the rest of the game, it seems like so far every single character at the end of the palace is able to relate to the person whose palace it is, or like has some way of connecting with them. Like in the first one, we see like Alice connects with Anne.
Yeah.
At the very end, and like she's the one that can relate, or like has been through bullying in high school, and like all the way through primary school and high school.
Yeah.
And can come from the same place that Alice has, and they have these really, really, I guess, heartfelt connections with their shadows. Unfortunately,
yeah.
At the end of the whole thing, but I like that so far, at least for every single one, there has been a different person from the Phantom Thieves that is related with or been able to like connect with the shadow and find a way to, I guess, empathize with them and make them want to be better. Like Arm wants to be a beacon of light for other people and like help to raise others up, and that's what Alice wanted.
Yeah.
Until she lost her way by being bullied and has gone down this path by using Emma to manipulate people.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done a really, really good job of like connecting each character to the palace so far, and I really, really like that mechanic. Alice's story, again, like I said, was I think a good way to start out and introduce people to the system.
Yeah.
Or like the way that it all works.
Yeah.
I did I did find that Alice's palace looked very, or at least the end of it looked very Kingdom Heartsy.
Yeah.
But that could also be because there is there is a Alice in Wonderland level in Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
But the very end, the palace, like the final arena fight that we do, also kind of had the same lighting and colors of the final fight against Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts 3 for a little bit. And I was like, this kind of looks similar. Like I've got really similar vibes here.
Yeah, exactly.
The palace looks sick though as well. Like all the palaces, like we're talking about Alice's one, but as a whole still, like love the designs, love the soundtracks that are different for every single one. Like they all like give off the vibe of the character and the place that we're in.
Yeah.
But Alice's looks sick. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, so most of them actually start out with like the stock standard jail theme, and then once you get into them, they actually have their own respective music theme songs to it as well. And then obviously, once you initiate a battle, you get remixes of the music that they used in Persona 5 and some original tracks as well.
Oh my god, it slaps.
Yeah.
The new music is I don't know the name of the song, but you never see it coming. But like that one with like the blast beats going on with the drums, everything, and the guitar. Holy crap, man!
When that first
much better.
When it first hits, man, it was so good. I was like, oh my god, this is so. You know what I love though? I'll be honest. I kind of love like when we are ready to kind of infiltrate the palace for the last time, or the jail for the last time, and we head in, and the I can't remember what the song is called now. Life Will Change hits, and it just I was like, oh my god, are you serious? They actually brought that back too. I was like,
the remixes of all the music they've done, just hearing it, like obviously again, the game is much faster paced compared to Persona 5, and like they've done a great job of matching the speed of the game and the music and kind of making it feel
fast
like Persona 5, but Muso,
exactly.
Like what you're hearing today? Be sure to follow all Dash Gamer podcasts on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify by simply typing dashgamer.com into the search bar of your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to check out our gaming, anime, and pop culture related news on dashgamer.com. Now back to the show.
Now listen up.
So let's talk a little bit about as well Sophie. So we meet Sophie in the palace underground. What do you think of her? What did you think of her character initially?
I didn't really know what to think. Obviously, she doesn't know much about, or I say she. I guess it is a she. They, it, AI. Yeah, don't really know much about like the character at the start too. The character design is freaking awesome though.
Yeah.
I love the when she's not got the hood on, like that her. Like the hearts or whatever, like they kind of split down into like the two different, like I guess pigtail kind of thing. But then when she's in like combat, it forms down into like one, and it's like the whole like robot kind of vibe, sort of like the AI kind of thing, like the eyes and everything. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
She's a really interesting character though. Like obviously, like we're teaching her a lot about. I guess we're slowly teaching her how to become human.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny. Obviously, she doesn't have a heart.
No.
And makes a pretty regular reminder that she doesn't have one, and that she's learning about different parts of being a human or a person. And we teach her outside and inside of the metaverse through the phone, or in the metaverse in person. It's a super unique character, but I also noticed a parallel with her to Morgana from Persona 5, in that both of them Their origins are they don't know where they came from. They don't know why they're here. Aside from like their one directive, I guess, like Sophia's in this one, we know is to be humanity's companion, and that's all she remembers. And Morgana, the same thing, like popped up. They had no recollection of like where he'd been before, and is just become part of like the Phantom Thieves. It's cool to see that kind of parallel with both games, that there's a character that has no idea of where they've come from, and they're just kind of becoming part of the team as time goes by.
Yeah, she slowly became my favorite character of the entire game. And you and I think the one part that kind of made me realize that was just the part that you kind of because you just left Okinawa, the jail there. And I want to highlight it obviously in later episodes, but the part where, you know, she's trying to really find herself, and the one of the reasons that she exists, you know, obviously for being humanity's companion, but that's all she understands right now, is that she's humanity's companion, nothing else. So the fact that she has been manifested within the metaverse to assist the Phantom Thieves is a question that's beyond comprehension right now for all of them, including yourself. So it really will, as time will tell. I can't really say more than that right now, obviously, because you're kind of at that point now where things are about to kick into high gear.
Things are ramping up.
Things are like, we got it to that point in the original Persona 5, and I told you that, and it really did. This is now, you have just hit that halfway mark, and things are about to get intense. So I really can't wait for you to like wrap everything up, because it's going to be a really, really interesting discussion. Now, let's talk a little bit about how they've gone ahead about introducing Emma into this as well, and how Emma is kind of
Emma's like a global meta nav now.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, it's a social media network essentially. This is what it is. Yeah, you're right. It's the global meta nav because you know, that's what's basically taking the Phantom Thieves in and out of the metaverse as well. But essentially, it's a social network that's also kind of controlling the populace, and that's how a lot of the population within the globe, or within Japan right now, or I should say, are kind of being manipulated by these antagonists within the game. Obviously, the first being Alice, and we'll get more into Alice in a second, and the jail. But how do you feel about a phone app basically controlling or brainwashing people?
Man, I'm trying to think of like how I could say it, I guess. I mean, this one's definitely more interesting because this is also an app that for the Phantom Thieves at least, they were the only ones that had access to the MetaNav then. Like, we were the ones that had it to get into the metaverse.
Yeah.
Obviously now people themselves aren't being taken into the metaverse, but anybody that has Emma installed, I guess that's the difference now, is everybody else has access to this application, but instead, like, when we use a keyword, the Phantom Thieves can enter the metaverse, whereas when other people use it, they are it's almost like they're essentially opting in to say, you can take my desires now, like, I am yours,
signing a contract.
So it's like a little verbal contract. You do the keyword and then someone can steal your desires, and it's definitely, again, I won't obviously, there's nothing, we were talking about it today on this app anyway, but like the stuff that's coming up now after doing the 4th jail, and finding out what you do in there, like, things are, like, there's definitely so much more to this than, and like, now, this compared to the metaverse, like, we are, I guess the Phantom Thieves are the ones that know about the metaverse, but the stuff in the metaverse back then only affected people of power, single people of power, whereas this one is affecting the population of Japan, I guess, and like wherever we go, like, it's people that have this app installed. It's crazy to see how this is all kind of like just spider webs out from like people controlling Emma to get to people in positions of power, or like high popularity, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they reach down and affect other people as well. It's just like this whole, it's almost like a pyramid scheme of things being affected, and it's I'm keen to see who is at the top of it all once we get to that point.
Is there any interesting characters that you've met along the way within let's just kind of spread it a little bit. Is there any interesting characters that you've met along the way so far?
I mean, Zenkichi is like one of my favorite characters in this so far. I know we spoke about him before, but he's awesome. Although I don't know, I'm gonna do I did this every time in Persona 5 when we did the pod too. I'm gonna make a prediction here because he obviously is, he's working with the police, is like public security, and he is being told regularly to not get attached to the Phantom Thieves and all that kind of stuff, and that eventually we're going to be thrown under the bus. I'm anticipating that at the end of all of this, he's gonna like have this big old conflict kind of thing, like the police, but the Phantom Thieves, what do I do? And there'll be this moment where he maybe betrays us and then actually ends up helping us. I don't know whether that is gonna happen. That's what I'm expecting. There's just gonna be maybe he is bad, but then actually ends up being good kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But his character is freaking awesome. I really, really, really like his character. And Akane as well, his daughter, when we do the whole house visit meet and all that, and like basically just crash in his place.
Yeah.
That was a really, really cool moment. I like that whole bit very, very much. But yeah, him and his family are really, really cool. And that moment, I feel like is set up a lot to then make the player fall, I guess, or like be fucking sad about some shit. So I don't know. Things were too happy, cheerful, roses and sunshine in that particular moment. So as soon as everything was like really good and we're at his place, I'm like, something bad's gonna happen.
So it's God, I can't talk about it yet, but there's definitely gonna be something. Anyway, I can't say it, but
nah, you can't.
No. That's cool. So yeah, you're getting established with Zenkichi. I think that so with Zenkichi, basically going on a road trip around Japan right now, Zenkichi kind of acts as that Sojiro filler, because Sojiro's...
Yeah, because we're not with him, we're leaving.
Yeah, Sojiro's literally in this game for like all of 5 minutes at the beginning, and then it's like, okay, well, no Sojiro during the game. Damn.
I'm kind of, I've been sad about that, yeah.
So Zenkichi acts as that guidance filler while you're playing the game, and it's great because he's actually quite an intriguing character. I was very sus on Zenkichi, like very sus on him, especially at the start. I was like, I can't trust this guy. I cannot.
Yeah.
I think that this guy's part of it. He has to be. He looks like he looks like freaking Shido with a wig. And I was like,
oh, really?
Well, to me, he does at least.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, man, he looks like Shadow with a wig. Shadow trying to fucking swoop on this thing and just. But so I was like, I don't know if I can trust him. But you'll see basically how the game pans out and that kind of thing. I was going to also say, you know what I loved about Alice's jail is that the fact that it really does give you the sense of freedom instead of the confines of a palace. And the way you kind of explore a jail is way different to a palace because you're going from one end to another, and essentially the map guides you in a way with like the exclamation mark saying, okay, you got to go here and you've got to go here. And here's an objective here that you got to fulfill, instead of actually having to basically have this linear RPG dungeon crawl. I will say, though, it does kind of get a little bit confusing at times, especially when you're having to retread specific paths. You have to go back and have a look again, and there are some moments where I was like, oh man, I'm kind of lost a little bit on this. Where am I supposed to be going? There are, so like the exclamation mark does kind of hold your hand, but there are some instances where it loops you, and you're kind of like, oh, all right, I'm a little bit lost here. Where am I? So I will say that there is some confusion there. But then once you hit the insides of, like, I will say there is a palace. There are palace moments within jails where you are just about to hit the antagonist of that certain jail. It really does feel like, okay, I'm back at Persona 5. And the one moment I really did feel that was actually in the jail that you were just in. I really felt that was more of a palace than there was a jail. But with the jails, essentially, in the way, especially the second jail and how open that was, I really felt like there was a sense of just, oh man, there is so much to play with here.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the open world kind of vibe compared to, I mean, yeah, Persona 5 was still pretty big. Like, there's still a lot that you can explore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of how it just feels like you can run around so much more and like explore so much more in this. And like, I really like, also the hidden chests. It's actually been that's been like really, really fun to do.
Yeah.
Some of the like not even challenges, but it's like the ways you have to find some of them. It's just like, they're not so challenging or like difficult that you kind of look at and go, I can't be asked. But at the same time, it's like, you know, there's a certain mechanic you need to use to get to this particular one, or like look for the thing to find the chest. Like even like the jail I just went through, like the most recent one for Shizo, Ubukata again, that one. There was a chest that I saw and it was like literally in plain sight behind a glass cell wall or whatever. Like I couldn't see it, I couldn't get to it. And literally all it was a vent, but you have to go and explore and work your way around to find your way to get into the chest, like stuff like that. Or back in I think it was Natsume's jail with the invisible platforms. Is that the one? Or was that? Yeah, now that one with like there's a chest that's just like on a ledge that you clearly can't reach unless you use the is it third eye?
Yep.
Ability, unless you use that, like that's the only way you get it. So I like that they make you search for the mechanics or the things you need to do to get to the chest instead of it just being like, oh, it's tucked around a corner, just go walk that way. Maybe it's good.
How good is the third eye mechanic, man? Like them bringing it good.
Back. Like it's.
Did it confuse you though?
I didn't really. I realized that the start, like the very first palace, like just partway through it, I guess I realized I'm like, I'm really not using this very often, and then like I started to use it more for like finding out where to go and what the objects of interest were and stuff too. So, as soon as you start using it more, it's really, really good. I also, there's another mechanic that I love, and this is one thing I really like about Persona 5 Strikers versus Persona 5, is the game feels so much more time efficient in terms of what you can do. Like you can, as soon as I load into a palace, like I can pick the checkpoint to go to. I don't have to run all the way back through, and like if I'm at a checkpoint, I can go like spawn somewhere else in the map or whatever, and like it's just.
I was about to bring that up. Yeah. So how do you feel about checkpoints versus save rooms?
I love that because I can save whenever, wherever. God, I hated having to find save point rooms to be able to do that. It was a really counterintuitive mechanic in my opinion, and I spent so much time running back and forth to get to a safe spot so I could actually put down the controller. Like it was like, oh, I have to leave now. Oh, okay, well now I need to spend 10 minutes trying to get back to the save point I have to get to. Like I hated that so much. One thing I don't like about the checkpoint stuff though, which I will complain about, is that you don't recover HP and SP when you stand in it. And I know that's going to seem like I'm saying make it like Kingdom Hearts, because I know that's what happens in the checkpoints in Kingdom Hearts, but it seems stupid. This is the one thing that I think isn't time efficient, is literally all you have to do is go to the checkpoint, leave the palace, come back, and then you have full HP SP again. Like I've literally spent no days. I could have just stood on this and you could have replenished me. I didn't, and I've wasted 2 loading screens because it kicks you outside the camper van too. You go back to the real world, you go outside the van, then you have to load into the van, then you have to load into the palace, then you have to pick where you want to spawn. Or I could just stand in the checkpoint. That's the one thing that I hate so much about the checkpoint system, is it's just
it was redundant.
Waste your time.
It was one of the more redundant things in the game. I was going to bring this up, but I was wondering if you had spotted this at all, but you obviously have. It was one of the more redundant loops in the game that you had to go to a save point, leave the jail, come back into the jail, and you fully replenish it. For me, it was like, why not just fill you up when you stand on it? It should have been like there should have kind of been. I can understand why they didn't want to implement it like put a hard pattern there to implement it, because it would have been there's kind of a cheating element to that. But then it would have been like, okay, so then don't make checkpoints so often, have them a little bit more spread out, But then the design of some of the maps would have caused some grief for some players as well. I can't. Yeah, there's one map that I can't talk to you about just yet, but we'll talk about it when you get to it.
Once we get there,
that will certainly question that. Essentially, like they will have you question. Okay, maybe this is why they have it like this, but it's just one of those things where, I am 100% in agreement with you. It is more of a redundant loop there than anything. Okay, so boss battle with Alice. Let's talk a bit about that. So,
oh gosh, I gotta remember this fight now because I just the most recent one I've done.
Yeah,
what was Alice's one again? Now,
she turns into the big bunny.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah. I do remember that.
So obviously learning all the skills that you did in the first palace, or sorry, the first jail. I keep saying palace anyway. The first jail.
That's habit.
can't help it. Learning all the skills you did in the first jail, heading into our final fight with Alice. She morphs obviously into this big bunny. Prior events to that, there is a loop that becomes evident, especially when you head into other palaces later on. So the loop is...
palaces again.
Fuck, I can't help it. So the loop is, especially within the first few jails, is that you head to a light tower or whatever, a tower. You grab these orbs, these power orbs, basically, and then once you've collected them all, you unlock a new section.
Cores.
Yeah, the cores. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And you unlock the opening towards getting towards each step towards the boss fight. But prior to it, you're also you encounter a mini boss fight, and that essentially kind of reveals more about our antagonist of this certain jail before actually having the big fight. So it reveals more about why they are trying to manipulate the public. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
I remember you're talking about the lock keepers now. Yeah,
correct. Yeah. So you confront these big monstrous mutants called the lock keepers, essentially, that are basically keeping, and that's essentially why they're called lock keepers, keeping all these memories, locked away inside this person that is distorted. Their desires are distorted. Defeating them opens up the final boss or the final act in each jail. How did you feel about the whole gameplay loop for the first few palaces there?
I really like it. Like, I think it's well put together. The lockkeeper fights are really, really fun. One thing I did notice, which is not a bad thing, but have you ever played Gravity Rush?
Yep.
The lockkeeper designs, the way that they look and the way they're shaded or designed, like I saw them and I'm just like, this looks like a Gravity Rush enemy. Like, they got like the eye in the middle and everything. Like, yeah, super Gravity Rush vibes, which is good because I freaking love that game. I platinumed Gravity Rush on my PS Vita. Love that series.
Game.
Very, very good game. I need to finish number 2 properly though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, really like the way they've it's very, very linear, but it's different. It's different obviously for each different one. But you got the 3 cores, the lockkeeper fight, then the big boss. There's just different ways to get there in terms of puzzling and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I like what they've done to try and tell you more about the character that you're trying to, I guess, change their heart back. Like, it's a really clever way to implement it into the mechanic to get to where you need to, and just include it in the storytelling. It's obviously for each different character, it's pretty, it's pretty sad stuff. It's never a good time going through the fight, but you obviously make some pretty good progress too. Yeah. I do feel bad for Ryuji though, because he's the one that has to touch the lock every time. Obviously, the first time he just unintentionally like bashed his face into it as he was trying to run through.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's being volunteered now, and I'm wondering. I don't know whether I'm looking too far into this, but I do have like I wonder whether him doing that, if that's like a long-term thing, maybe. I'm interested to see whether him being the one that touches these every single time is going to take some kind of toll on him by like the 8th jail.
Yeah.
I might be reading too much into it. It might just be something he does, but every time he does it, he's like, really hurts kind of thing. So I'm curious to see if that takes a toll on Ryuji by the end of the whole thing. Yeah, the lockkeeper fights are sick too. The fact that they all have like different fight styles and stuff, or like different abilities and, the weaknesses and strengths, which I love. That you see in the overlay when you pop I press R1 to bring up your persona attack and you see what they're weak and strong against.
Yeah.
All that is really, really cool. They've been good fights.
Showtime is bought in from Persona 5 Royal, so that'd be something that's a little fresh for you.
I didn't get to use that obviously it wasn't in P5, so yeah.
Yeah. Utilizing Showtime obviously is kind of like more of a personal super in for each character, that you get their own respective showtime, which is really cool. But then there's also the return of all-out attacks, like specific all-out attacks, and then there's mini all-out attacks that you can utilize while you're in battle as well. How did you feel about using the mini ones and the the huge ones that you land basically to finish off the entire thing?
I really like it. I think they've done a good job of making it feel more impactful when you do it against the boss. Obviously, the mini ones are still technically an all-out attack, but it's just against a horde of enemies. When you do the big one, it's against like an important or a powerful enemy or a boss, obviously, as well. So, yeah. The sound, like the impact, like the first time I heard it, like the explosion that happens after it, I was just like, okay, let's go. Like it just felt like I had done so much damage the first time. I was just like, that was sick. It sounds amazing. So good. But yeah, I like what they've done with like the whole like once more attacks and the finishing. Like there's so many combat mechanics in this game, which I'm almost maybe gonna hijack the podcast in a second to talk about. But yeah, I love the I love the new, or like I love the way they've implemented the all out attacks in this as a whole. You mind if I steer the ship for a quick second here? I gotta say, I've so far playing through, like smashing through the first 4 jails. I love what they've done to make you play more of the game's fighting mechanics. Because in the very first jail for Alice's one, I found that all I could do was run around and hack and slash and like literally just square and triangle, easy fight, you're out, no worries, get out of here, easy clap. And then the second one and the third one and the fourth one, the more you go, the more it requires you to look into things more. And like now you need to look at weaknesses for some enemies because they resist physical attacks.
Yep.
You need to start using your gun more because some are weak to that when you try and like get the drop on them and all that. Others are then as you go further in, again, like you've got some that are impervious to certain magic attacks or some that actually absorb magic attacks too. So like they've done a really good job of pacing the complexity of the fights as time goes by and not just being like, here's all the mechanics, do the thing, learn it as you go, and like make it stupid hard at the start. So yeah, it's really, and another thing that I love is the way that each different character has a specific fight style that you can take advantage of. Like Ann, you can infuse her whip with fire.
Yes.
Ryuji's got like the lower crit power up that he can do. I'm a huge fan of Sophia, though, because she actually has like timed abilities with her yo-yos. So like you throw them out and then when it lights up, you time your attack again. Like it doesn't reward button mashing. Her character so far feels like the highest skill requirement player to use efficiently to get the best attacks out of her. And she's also got like bless attacks, which look sick. But yeah, the whole fight mechanic in the game is very, very cool. I'm a massive, massive fan of it.
I am so glad you've said that because it's been the one thing that a lot of people have said during like reviewing or studying the game, and they're like, "Oh man, it's such a casual feeling just to get in and button mash." It's like that's not the aim. You
can, yeah, but you're not gonna get through your fights anywhere near as easily.
There is a lot. See, that's the thing. Like in prior entries into the Warriors series and other spin-offs like Horror Warriors and the Dynasty Warriors, which is the mainline series. Yeah, sure. You can jump in, you can hack and slash, and you probably get through it within a day. Okay, cool. But Persona 5 Strikers does not allow you to do that. There is a sense that there is strategy that they are trying to put. Like it's imperative that you study this game. Much like you did. If you are a Persona 5 fan, it is imperative that you study this game like you did Persona 5 because there are skills and requirements that need to be met. Much like when you were trying to defeat enemies in Persona 5, like you just said, there are only some that it can take. Like every single enemy or shadow that returns from Persona 5 still has the exact same attributes from the original game that they do in Strikers.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of those shadows that can only take like melee attacks rather than magic attacks, and then there are only some that can take magic attacks rather than melee attacks. So there is that inconsistency that is brought from Persona 5 over, and you have to really think about it, whether you're initiating battle with your persona or you're just striking them. And there are different. There are going to be battles that will come up that you will see that some of them are kind of magic sponges and some are kind of HP sponges. So it's definitely, and that's the other thing too. HP and SP are in this game. That's something that's only really ever in an RPG. This is not a straightforward RPG. This is a Muso game that has RPG tendencies. So it's really, really unique to have HP and SP in a Muso title. So once again, you're sitting here and you're like, fuck, this is a lot to kind of take in, but it's so seamlessly streamlined. There is a streamlined effect in this that seems almost unfathomable from a developer perspective, from a game designing perspective, that you put this on paper and it's like, man, I would not know how they would manage how to make something like that, but they have, and it's come out incredible. So
it's really, yeah,
it really, really is. Holmesy, before we wrap up our first episode, a little bit of trivia for you, because you are a former Apple genius.
Yeah.
So obviously Emma, the app, the voice over application, like the voiceover of the application, obviously derives from Siri.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who the voice actor is of Emma?
No, I don't.
So her name is Susan Bennett.
Is that actually Siri?
Yeah. So
they got the voice actor as Siri for it. I was going to say that name sounds familiar because that's the person who does Siri, right?
So this one's from Wikipedia. Susan Alice Bennett is an American voiceover artist and former backup singer for Roy Orbison and Burt Bucaque. She is best known for being the female American voice of Apple's Siri since it was introduced on the iPhone 4S in October 4th, 2011.
And she's doing the voice for Emma.
She is the voice of Emma.
Flex right there for that's pretty damn.
That's awesome, isn't it? Yeah.
As soon as you said Susan Bennett, I'm like, that's Siri. That's the Siri voice person. Yeah,
that is the American voice. That she is the She is the OG Siri.
Yeah.
So like that is an incredible. Like I was like, when I was playing the game and I was hearing this voice, I was like, man, they got that Siri down pat. And I was like, hold on a second, there's no way. And then I had a look and it was like, it's actually Siri. They actually got the OG Siri.
That's insane. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, man. So like, obviously, keeping it faithful, they wanted to really kind of put it on you that, hey, no, this is, we're trying to give you a message here. This is actually Siri. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's very, very cool.
It's awesome, dude. It's awesome. Holmesy, it's been an awesome first episode back into our second season of Persona 5 content.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be an amazing season to get through, and I can't wait to talk more about Persona 5 Strikers with you.
Episode 2 coming up soon, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Guys, if you didn't know, this has been Dash and Holmesy Take Your Hearts. I try monthly, or whatever it is, a book club inspired gaming podcast where Holmesy and I sit down and talk about the latest in the world of Persona 5. Don't forget to follow us over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. You can follow Mr. Holmesy over here at Holmesy5 on Twitter. You can follow myself on Twitter at Dash Gamer. Don't forget to follow the show. Yep, once again, SoundCloud, iTunes. 5-star. I've kind of mixed up the whole thing. Also, catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, give us a like, leave us a comment. Surely helps us out. Yeah, Persona 5 stuff. It's great.
Pretty good.
Until we see you guys next time, take care of each other, stay safe, wash those hands, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Daredevil, you picked the wall. Did you think you could get away? You have us to repay.
DashGamer.com